All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling a topic that I think is super relevant to, well, pretty much anyone who's married or in a serious
It's
relationship.
about communication, right?
You got it. More specifically, those little things we might say or do, even with the best contentions, that can end up hurting our wives' feelings.
Oh, I think we've all been there.
Totally.
Ah.
So imagine we've got this ultimate guidebook to help us navigate those tricky conversational waters in marriage.
And we're going to break it down together, like extract those golden nuggets of wisdom for building a stronger, happier connection.
You got it. Now, I dove into a ton of material on this, articles, books, you name it. And one theme that kept popping up was the idea of respect and validation.
Makes sense. That's got to be foundational, right?
Yeah.
Like marriage 101.
For sure. But sometimes I think we need those reminders.
Absolutely. It's easy to fall into bad habits or to just like forget how important those things are.
Totally. And the source I was looking at really hammered that home. Like the idea that even subtle actions or words can speak
Oh,
volumes.
for sure. Like, you know how sometimes we get caught in the comparison trap? I think everyone does it to some extent.
What, Trev?
The comparison trap, where we like size our wives up against some kind of ideal we've built in our heads.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like an ex, a friend's wife, or even someone who we see on social media, right?
Exactly. It's so easy to do these days with social media and everything, and it's a recipe for disaster, honestly.
Yeah, it's like you're subtly saying she's not enough, that she needs to be more like this other person.
Exactly. And that can really chip away at her self-esteem, make her feel like she's constantly in competition for your approval.
Ouch. Yeah, nobody wants to feel that way.
Yeah.
So what's the antidote to that comparison thing?
Appreciation. What if, instead of comparing her to others, we focus on appreciating her unique strengths, her quirks, the things that make her her, you know?
I like that. Appreciate, don't compare. So it's about shifting that focus, right?
Exactly. It's about seeing her as an individual, not as someone who needs to measure up to some imaginary standard.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And this whole respect thing goes beyond just like big picture comparisons, right? It also applies to more personal stuff like her appearance.
Absolutely. You know, even seemingly harmless comments about her weight, her clothes, how she's aged those can be really hurtful.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Like, think about it. You'd never want to make her feel self-conscious or insecure about how she looks.
Definitely not. Everyone wants to feel attractive to their partner.
Exactly. So genuine compliments, words of affirmation, those are the way to go.
Got it. So appreciate her, compliment her, avoid those little digs, even if they're meant to be jokes.
Exactly. And it's not just about what you say, but also about how you listen.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
Okay, so think about this. If she's upset about something and you dismiss her feelings, tell her she's overreacting or that something's not a big deal.
That's got to sting, right?
Yeah, that's what we call emotional invalidation. And it can be just as hurtful as any critical remark about her appearance.
I see what you mean. It's like you're saying her feelings aren't valid, which is a horrible message to send to your partner.
Exactly. So what's a better way to respond when she's upset?
Okay, let's say she comes to me with something that's bothering her. Instead of trying to fix it or tell her she shouldn't feel that way.
Right, try validating her emotions.
How do I do that?
Say something like, I can see that you're really hurting right now. Tell me more about what's going on.
Okay, tell me more about what's going on. So I'm not minimizing her experience. I'm actually encouraging her to open up more.
Exactly. It shows that you're taking her feelings seriously and that you want to understand her perspective. That empathy goes a long way.
Empathy over dismissal.
Yeah.
Got it. And that makes me think about how in any relationship, but especially marriage, you're in it together, right? It's about shared responsibility.
Absolutely. And one trap I see couples fall into is this burden of happiness thing.
Burden of happiness. What's that?
It's where one partner expects the other to be solely responsible for their emotional well-being.
Oh, I've seen that. Like if you've had a bad day at work and you come home expecting your wife to magically cheer you up.
Yeah, exactly. Or putting pressure on her to make you feel happy all the time. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone.
Huge pressure. Way too much for one person to handle.
Exactly. Happiness is a two-way street. Both partners need to take responsibility for their own emotional state.
Right. Like you can't rely on someone else to make you happy all the time. You got to find your own sources of joy, too.
Absolutely. And then at the same time, you support each other through the ups and downs. It's about finding joy in shared experiences, but also celebrating each other's individual pursuits.
Carrying the load, lifting each other up.
Yeah.
Got it. Speaking of burdens, the source I was reading also talked about letting go of past mistakes.
Oh, that's a big one. It's so important.
Why is that so crucial?
Well, think about it like this. If you're constantly dragging around baggage from the past, it weighs down the whole relationship, right?
Makes sense. Like if you keep bringing up old arguments or holding on to grudges.
Exactly. It creates resentment and prevents you from moving forward together.
So it's not about forgetting what happened,
Yeah,
but about choosing to focus on the present and building a better future.
you got it. Address past issues constructively, learn from them, and then make a conscious effort to let them go.
Because holding on to that stuff just poisons the present.
It really does. And forgiveness is a powerful tool, for healing and growth, both individually and as a couple.
That makes sense.
It's,
And I can see how that ties into supporting your wife's dreams and goals, too.
oh, absolutely. If you're stuck in negativity from the past, it's hard to be there for each other in a positive way.
Right. You're not going to be able to cheer each other on if you're still harboring resentment or anger.
Exactly. And when you belittle her aspirations or dismiss her dreams,
That's not hurt, right?
it really does. It chips away at her self-esteem and the very foundation of your partnership. Imagine having a partner who doesn't believe in you, who thinks your goals are silly or unattainable.
It would be devastating. Like, why even bother?
Exactly. So be each other's biggest cheerleaders, okay? Encourage her, support her, and celebrate her wins, big and small.
I love that. Be her biggest cheerleader. And it shows her that you're invested in her happiness and success, right? Both as an individual and as your partner.
Exactly. It's about showing up for her, supporting her growth and her journey.
Okay, I'm feeling all inspired now.
Yeah.
But we can't talk about building a strong relationship without talking about communication.
Couldn't agree more.
And I'm not just talking about like active listening and all that. This source had a whole section on things to avoid saying because they can be so destructive.
Oh, I think we could all use a reminder about that. Words have immense power, don't they?
Totally. They can build up or tear down, especially in a relationship as intimate as marriage.
So true.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that stood out to you? Like what kind of language can really do damage?
Well, one thing that really struck me was the idea of threatening divorce or separation, even jokingly.
Yeah, that's a big no-no. It might seem harmless in the moment, but it can really introduce an element of instability into the relationship.
And it erodes trust, right? Like, even if you don't mean it, those words can plant seeds of doubt.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, words can never be taken back. Even if you apologize, the sting can linger.
And what about comparing workloads? I feel like that's a common trap, especially if one partner works outside the home and the other manages things at home.
Oh, absolutely. It's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking, my job is harder, or I do more around here.
Yeah, like if one person's bringing home a paycheck, they might feel like their contribution is more valuable.
Right, but it completely devalues the work that goes into running a home and caring for a family.
Totally.
Yeah.
And those roles can be so demanding. Whether your work is paid or unpaid, you're contributing to the family unit.
Exactly. So instead of comparing, focus on appreciating each other's efforts. Find ways to support one another. It's a partnership, remember.
Teamwork makes the dream work. And what about criticizing her family and friends? Is that a no-go zone too?
Unless there's a serious issue that needs to be addressed, I'd say it's best to avoid criticizing her loved ones.
Even if, like, her mother drives you up the wall sometimes.
Yeah, even then. Remember, these are the people she cares about deeply. Criticizing them puts her in a tough position and creates unnecessary conflict.
Okay, so even if I disagree with someone she's close to, I should probably just bite my tongue, right?
It's probably best. You can always talk to her about it later in a more neutral setting if it's something that's really bothering you. But avoid criticizing them directly.
Got it. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about appreciating her, validating her feelings, sharing responsibility, avoiding negative language. Any last words of wisdom?
It all boils down to mindfulness. Think before you speak. Consider the impact of your words and choose language that builds your partner up.
Because even small changes in the way we communicate can make a big difference, right?
Absolutely. And remember, respect, validation, shared responsibility, positive communication, these are the cornerstones of a happy and fulfilling marriage.
So well said. And on that note, I want to leave you with this question. As you go about your day, think about the things we discussed today. How can you apply these insights to build an even stronger, more loving connection with your wife? It's something to ponder, isn't it?
It is, and it's worth the effort.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Catch you next time.